You ready?
How's he doing?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Harrisburg City Council Legislative Session, March 10th, 2015. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Mr. Petrosky, please do the roll call.
Mr. Allett?
Present.
Mr. Baltimore? Present. Ms. Daniels?
Present.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Present.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here. Thank you. And before Mr. Baltimore does the invocation, I just want everyone to take a moment, a silence for Pam Bucelis. She is the daughter of Miss Roberta Bucelis, who still is and was an advocate for the city of Harrisburg and also a member of the Harrisburg School Board. So let's take a moment of silence for Miss Pam Bucelis. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Baltimore, invocation.
Would you all please bow your head for a moment of silence, honoring those who have gone before us in the past weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baltimore. Pledge allegiance, Mr. Allett.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Allett. Moving on to communications. We have none this evening. Moving on to courtesy of the floor. Anyone to my right would like to come to the mic, please do so now.
Good evening, Honorable Council and Captain Kirk. Ron Chappell, 3rd Street, Harrisburg. Okay, I want to speak on this parking situation, two issues. First of all, this parking situation. Now, many of us in the inner city of Harrisburg has been receiving tickets sometimes that are unwarranted. You know, we'll have parking permission stickers in our vehicle, but we still get tickets. So it's like it's almost a willy-nilly thing there. You know, some of these enforcement agencies, they're not up on the rules, or they just feel that it's their need to write as many tickets as they can. I don't know if they're under a quota or whatever. But however, today I went over to the FIA building over on 7th Street, and I was surprised that there were rows and rows of parking meters, okay? And no one apparently was subject to any kind of a parking ticket, you know. Now, I want someone, perhaps at the Parking Commission, but someone should explain, is this selective enforcement? Because why should it apply to residents? You know, the meters were supposed, I believe, primarily be put downtown, but now they're spreading along 6th Street. You know, why are those people exempt from tickets? Okay, another thing, you know, we're in a city election season now, and I saw that one of the mayors, no, a candidate for a certain office was at the mayor's bookstore speaking before a crowd, and I'm saying as a private citizen that I'm fully confident that the mayor has his pick of candidates that he would like to sit on this council to help push this agenda through. But the question of ethical fairness arises. You know, I wonder if the other candidates were notified, and if the other candidates would also be given space to appear in a public setting like that. You know, and again, I want to caution the citizens to really check out who's behind a lot of these candidates, because we know that some outside developers made a tremendous contribution to the mayor's campaign. And there are sneaking suspicions in the community that some of those investors in this campaign are coming back with their hands out to get paid. Now, it could be for the property, that could be what this 10-year tax exemption is about, but something is wrong here in River City. And so I ask the potential voters in this upcoming election to really investigate, who's handling these particular candidates that will come before you. With that, I wish you all a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Mr. Boyd and Mr. Foolish also. What a delight to be in Dr. Martin Luther King's, I would say, the house of Dr. Martin Luther King. If he would look down from heaven today, he would shake his head in disgust. We live in a city, they say, of many minorities and people of power, and the elitists of this city are supposedly laughing. But they always say that the one person like me are the poor in a great city that is 3/4 poor, that I can look into the 7 powerful people of this great city and think about the mayor of this city and look at them with disgust. 19 months I have been fighting this council and also with this mayor, not only me, but 3/4 of this great city about the Broad Street Market. I have listened to things that even the governor would not accept. We have been talked about. We have been kicked out. We have been escorted out by the police. I always say one thing about this. I'm born here. I didn't just fly here. But I like to remind the 7 powerful ones that I'm standing in front of. Remember, it's 19 months. I've asked you with earnest. I kept coming here. My project is dealing with the homeless, and I will still deal with that. But at this time, I would like to say that we are still waiting. We've asked the honorable mayor, so to speak, and also we've asked all other people concerned, when will they get rid of these people? Guess what happened? And I can say this with an earnest. It'll be one day. We don't know when it's going to happen. Politics is a very funny thing. I wish we could get that out of the market. You need to take the Broad Street Market back. And I'm saying that 100%. Ashley Dugan, you must be kidding. You have to be kidding. Anybody that walks around does nothing. She's in the bookstore constantly, telling vendors this and threatening vendors. We know one other one that did that, and she left, and I hope to God that this one leaves. You cannot tell a vendor, I don't like you. I don't even like your food, and I don't even like your clients. See, one thing about me, I'm not scared of anything because I tell the truth. I would like to also say this evening, we have major problems with the homeless. We have 11 more days before the shelter will close. This was a $60 million budget. The 7 passed. All we're asking for pennies on a dollar. We have people coming from Zuma that I've stood here and watched dancers. You can help the dancers, but will you help the poor of this city? I'm not talking about the ones that are sponging. I'm talking about the ones that are in need. And once again, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else to my right? Come to the mic, sir, please.
Yeah, I'd be permitted to sit down due to a disability.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Scott Portsline of Harrisburg Zone Citizen Group 3 Mile Island Alert. I'm here to address the concerns being put forth by Brad Kaplinski about the dangerous train shipments. So you know a little bit about me. I've been featured on CNN, Dateline, PBS, Defense Monitor, and Homeland Security Newswire, the BBC, and U.S. News and World Report magazine regarding the nuclear terrorism realm. And I have 3 recommendations I'd like to make. And I told you my background so you know a little bit about what I have done and what 3 Mile Island Alert has done. The 3 recommendations I ask you to consider for the resolution is there's a problem with communications. It's noted that there's no prior notifications of these dangerous shipments through Harrisburg. Therefore, council should request that the Department of Transportation be able to notify PEMA, Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, and Harrisburg of any incident involving these secreted shipments within 10 minutes' time. I think that's possible with the GPS systems and everything that we have today with the internet. The second concern would be, and recommendation would be, speed restrictions during inclement weather. Shortly after the 9/11 attacks, I saw a high-level radioactive spent fuel cask being transported 8 miles north of Harrisburg. Having passed through the city of Harrisburg, it was hauling dangerous nuclear fuel rods from military reactors, and it was traveling at 50 miles per hour. That was on a 96-degree day. It was the third day in a row of 90-degree temperatures. And down in Washington, D.C., the day before, there was a derailment due to the tracks warping under the heat. So Harrisburg should ask the Department of Transportation to consider putting a speed restriction, maybe 30 miles an hour. I'm not an expert on what those trains can withstand, but certainly nearly 50 miles an hour was too fast. And then the third recommendation I have is that the fire responders in the city of Harrisburg be charged with turning on their radiation detectors, their Geiger counters, when they respond to any incident. You never know what people have. I've studied lost and stolen nuclear materials in the United States, maintained a database of that, and it was used by the U.S. News and World Report magazine. If you have a fire in some of these buildings, there's tritium in the exit signs. It's a good way to protect the first responders and the public. That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Anyone else to my right? In the middle.
Tim Dowtrick, 1033 Melrose Street. It's funny you bring up the parking issue because that was something that was on my mind also. I commend you for the information you brought forward, by the way. Yeah, it's very informative. What I wanted to mention about the parking, I was talking to somebody the other day and they had attended a city council meeting and got parking tickets. I'm very much an advocate into the community to get people to get involved and to come to city council meetings. And quite frankly, if I wasn't already downtown, I probably would not come and pay for parking and go through the aggravation. And I don't like credit cards for parking anyways, you know, but if there's anything that we can do to stimulate getting more public participation at the city council meetings, because quite frankly, right now, people don't want to come because they got to deal with the parking issue. If there's some type of pass they can be given, or just something that we can do so that parking would not be a deterrent from people coming and getting involved with our community. Also, we talk about politicians. I like to think everybody here are public servants. And I'd like to think that everybody here is out of their, not trying to perpetuate their political careers, but they're here because they care and are concerned and want to get involved with their communities. Years and years ago, as we all know, it was often retired people that have their businesses or whatever, and then they got involved in the community. And I just would like to refer to everybody as public servants rather than politicians. That's all. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else in the middle?
Good evening. I'm Daniel D. Graham, 217 North 2nd Street here in Harrisburg. Well, one thing that could be done to get more people to come to the city council meeting, increase the CAT bus service all day and all evening so that we have bus service every 15 minutes on all the CAT bus routes. And as I said before, more passenger rail service. And also, speaking of the railroads here, I read the news article about Councilman Kaplinsky's recommendations and legislations that he plans to introduce to implement more safety measures and public safety protections for Harrisburg and other communities along the rail lines where these freight trains carrying flammable liquids like oil and other flammable liquids, and which is good. What Councilman Kaplinski said in the news article in the Patriot News today and in Resolution 20. Also, I suggest rerouting these oil tanker trains to run on bypass tracks, which completely bypass the Harrisburg region and also would bypass other towns and cities. So that these oil trains could completely bypass the Harrisburg region and all other towns and cities on their shipments going to Philadelphia. And as this other gentleman suggested, impose speed restrictions on these oil trains, which do come through Harrisburg and other communities. Now, on 2 or 3 occasions, I have watched some of these oil trains which come through on these tracks coming through Harrisburg, and they run those oil trains at slow speeds. Like it looks like maybe 15 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour from what I've seen. So that is good. That greatly reduces the risk of derailment on those oil trains. But again, better yet, I think to reroute these oil trains on bypass tracks that completely bypass the Harrisburg region and bypass other towns and cities on the way to Philadelphia. And as I said before, make room make room on the tracks for more passenger trains. Again, we do need a lot more passenger trains running on these railroad tracks through Harrisburg and other towns and cities here in Pennsylvania. Restoring an overnight train from Harrisburg to Chicago, like the former Broadway Limited train ran. Also, restoring passenger trains on the on the rail line from Harrisburg to Hershey, Lebanon, Reading, Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton, then continuing across New Jersey and going to Newark and New York Penn Station. That's would be an important rail route, and also restoring passenger trains on the rail line from Harrisburg to York and Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and from Harrisburg north to Buffalo and Toronto, and a regional commuter rail system on present rail lines, also on many railroads that could be used for commuter passenger trains, like from Harrisburg to Carlisle via Mechanicsburg, and from Harrisburg to Mount Holly Springs and to Gettysburg. I believe a good number of people would ride the trains on those rail routes also.
Okay, sir.
And from Harrisburg to York, Harrisburg to Hershey and Lebanon, and Harrisburg north to Millersburg, Halifax, and we need that commuter rail system also as soon as we can get it running. Yes, as it is now, we do have good Amtrak passenger train service on the present Amtrak rail line from Harrisburg to Lancaster, Philadelphia, New York City.
Sir, you gonna come to?
Frequent trains, and one train a day, but it's a good train from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful, thrilling ride also. Praise God. But we need a lot more passenger trains on the present rail routes. Thank you much. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the middle? You can just go to the mic, sir.
Good evening, Madam President, Mayor Papenfuse, members of council. My name is Alan Kennedy Schaefer, 252 Verbeck Street, and I'm going to talk tonight about 3 Ps. First, Pennsylvania bomb trains, which I would lend my voice in support of Resolution 20 of 2015, which calls for greater regulation of the oil tankers that run through Harrisburg, specifically the zip code 17104. I think this is a matter of concern to residents in that zip code and throughout our city. Speaking for myself, it was horrifying to watch the pictures and videos of the fireballs and explosions coming from the trains that have derailed already. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. And I agree with you that communication with Pima is important. I've already had the chance to meet our new Pima director appointed by Governor Wolf, Richard Flynn, who is a retired colonel from the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. And I'm proud to be part of that with him. I think that you're on the right track, and I hope that you will follow up to ensure that these regulations are put into effect. Second, parking. I appreciate Tim and Ron and everyone else who's already talked about parking. At the last Parking Advisory Committee meeting, more than 60 people showed up to express their concerns about the extension of hours to 7 p.m., charging for Saturdays, raising the rates to $3 an hour, which is more than downtown Philadelphia. And there were promises made by Standard Parking and the Parking Advisory members that they said that changes would be made soon. We are still waiting to hear what those changes will be. And I call upon all of you as our elected representatives to find out what those changes will be and to make those changes as soon as possible for the good of our city. And third, I want to talk briefly about potholes. This is an issue that I hope that the Public Works will take more seriously. There are potholes driving down 3rd Street. You kind of go bump, 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 bump the whole way down the street. Not only 3rd Street, but 6th Street and other. Of course, there is work ongoing around 15th Street and that area, but I think that more should and must be done to fix our potholes. So with that in mind, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Jeremy Domenico, 160 South Summit Street. I would just like to formally invite everybody. Next Tuesday is our 10-minute Trash Tuesday. City Regional Water's involved, and I'd like to say we're trashalicious. We're not asking for your money. You're going to come out and get a great workout, and you're going to help the environment. And another thing, free parking. We don't need anything but bodies, and if you work really hard, you get a good sweat, you get good cardio, and we'll also take donations. Thanks. Have a great day. We hope to see you Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
What time is it?
What time, where is it at?
4:30 at Mulberry.
What time and where is it at? What location?
4:30, I'm sorry, 4:30.
Can you come back to the mic, please?
It's at 4:30, and we're going to meet at what's the old DeSante Community Park. It's right by the McFarland Building,
Yeah.
right at the corners of Crescent and Mulberry Street.
Okay.
All free parking you need.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone to my left? Mr. Grover, would you please address the issue of parking, please?
Well, the issue I can address is the what Mr. Chappell has raised about the spaces up by
FIA, let them know about the contract.
There was no real generation of funds, as I understand it, coming from those meters. So FIA has in fact leased themselves as there was no parking lot to lease those spaces. So they're actually FIA employees in those spaces. I think it's a total of 90. They put the white bags over the top of all of those. So it isn't that they're they're actually being paid for the entire thing as a collective. They entered into an agreement with Trimont and Standard Parking to lease those spaces. They have they're doing an expansion with the buildings across the street. I think eventually they'll go away, but right now it wasn't generating money, and it was a way to provide them a service that they needed and keep money into the system.
As to their employees who
For their
could not
employees.
find adequate parking in that area.
May I say something, Madam President?
Could you meet us after the meeting, please, and talk about this?
Just to say that there are some with bags, but there are many that don't have bags.
Well, he tried to explain to you that we're in agreement with Trimont. FIA has leased all those, so FIA is paying for all those spaces. Whether they have a bag or not, FIA is still paying for all those parking meters along that corridor.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Grover.
Yes, ma'am.
Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the legislative session minutes of February 25th, 2015. Council members, are any omissions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, may I have a vote of approval?
So moved.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Minutes will stand as approved. Thank you. Reports of committees, we have none this evening. Ordinance for first reading, we have none. Ordinance for amendment, we have none. And ordinance for final passage, we have none. Moving on to resolutions, Resolution 14 of 2015. Mr. Petrosky, please read that into record.
Resolution 14 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution approving the zoning code amendment request submitted by William C. Collis, Esquire, to allow for hotel, motel, and extended stay hotel establishments by special exception within the Riverfront RF zone.
That would be placed in Building Housing Committee. Moving on to Resolution 15 of 2015.
Resolution 15 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution approving the zoning map amendment request submitted by Phoenix Associates and Raymond W. Buck and Peggy Grove of Rose Wayne Realty to change the zoning designation of 3 parcels located at 915 South Front Street, 1103 South Front Street, and South Front Street from Industrial IND Zone to Riverfront RF Zone.
That also will be placed in Building Housing Committee. Moving on to Resolution 16 of 2015.
Resolution 16 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Allett. It's a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Trout, Ebersol, and Groff, LLP, CPAs, and business advisors to conduct a reconciliation of the city's workers' compensation liability, compensated absence liability, and post-employment benefit obligation accounts.
That would be placed in Budget and Finance Committee. Moving on to Resolution 17 of 2015.
Resolution 17 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Baltimore. It's a resolution ratifying a park permit with Harrisburg Capitals Soccer Incorporated doing business as Harrisburg City Islanders team for the holding of games and other related activities for its 2015 season in the Skyline Sports Complex on City Island.
At this time, may I have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Thank you. And also, I'd like a motion to bring Resolution 13 out of committee as well.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Doug Walmer?
Yes. Would you like to address Resolution 13? first,
Yes, I
Madam?
would.
Okay.
You want me to read it in the record first?
We're not suspended, so.
Oh, you want to,
We're
okay,
suspended
okay.
already.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Resolution 13, 2015
I'm
was
sorry,
moved by
I
Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Reed. It's a resolution ratifying a professional services agreement with Larry L. Eikenberry to provide technical assistance necessary to submit crime statistics to the Pennsylvania State Police IT Department for required 2014 reporting.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky, and I apologize for that. Mr. Walmer?
Yes, this resolution, as the clerk just read in, is in connection with a problem that we're having with our IT department. There's a server that collects crime statistics that we report to the Pennsylvania State Police, not only for Harrisburg, but some other surrounding municipalities. And it came to our attention in late January this year that that server was malfunctioning and was not submitting the crime data to the state police IT department. There's a requirement with the state police that the crime data be submitted to them by February 28th of each year. So it was something that we had to address immediately. So the city was able to contract with Larry Eikenberry, a contractor who has knowledge of this specific IT problem and server. So we contracted with Mr. Eikenberry to undertake an analysis and to rectify the problem.
My question is, I see the payment for service is $60 per hour, and it's on a biweekly basis. How much time is required to input all this information into the system?
Yes, Mr. Eikenberry did provide the city with an estimated time and fees
Okay.
schedule that's attached
Okay.
to the contract that's Exhibit A. So that
Okay.
the back part of that estimate gives the various tasks that will be completed and the high and low range of what the fee for the services would be to complete those tasks.
Okay. Any questions, council member? Ms. Wilson?
Oh, I'm focused on something else. Go ahead.
Okay.
Pass me for a minute. Just let
Okay,
me get my
Mr.
thoughts together
Allen.
here.
I don't know that I have any specific questions.
Okay. Mr. Kavalinsky?
I have no questions.
Ms. Daniels?
I just wanted to just get a sense. So currently, no data is being inputted even for the city of Harrisburg? So this person will be inputting for both Harrisburg and the other
That's
municipalities?
correct, yes.
Okay. So how many years behind are we?
My understanding is it's only one year
1 year.
that we just had a problem reporting data for 2014.
Okay. And does this require specific certification for the individual, or was there a reason why someone else in the police department?
My understanding is that I believe Mr. Eikenberry had formerly worked here and had worked in the IT department and has knowledge of this particular server. And that's, and that the IT department thought that he would be a good selection to handle these, to render these services.
Okay, so as of right now, there isn't anyone who works in the city who is able to even just partially do the work?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
We just have limited resources to be able to complete the work, right?
Yeah, that's all for me.
Mr. Baltimore?
Are the other municipalities contributing anything to this, or are we paying for the other municipalities?
There's no contribution from the other municipalities, the way I understand, directly related to this contract, but
What they do is they actually pay us for that service, and we were not able to fulfill it. So it's not the contract, it's the service that has it. And I think the one fee is $10,000. And you might, if you had paid $10,000 and it wasn't happening, you might be, we did get a call from someone who was fairly upset that it wasn't happening in a timely manner, which is what led to this agreement, one of the things that led to this agreement. So,
Anything else, Mr. Palmer? Ms. Wilson?
How long have we not been providing this data?
my understanding is it just for year 2014, that 2013 was completed.
Okay.
So in essence, there's a requirement that by February 28th of each year that we report the data for the prior year.
How many municipalities or areas does this entail in totality? I'm looking.
It appears that it is Middletown, East Pennsboro, Campbell, West Shore, New Cumberland, and Carlisle.
So we got 6. Now you made reference to there being a $10,000 fee, but is that a $10,000 fee that gets collected by all of those municipalities, or do they pay $10,000 per?
it was my understanding that the one municipality who was complaining had paid that annual fee because it was in lieu of them having to create a system and do it themselves.
Okay.
So that, we had the system in place. I think the reality of what happened here is this gentleman retired in 2013. There was no one else who had the skill sets or the knowledge and had been handling the task. And sometime in the beginning of 2015, it came up that this task had been hanging out there. And that's how he ended up coming back. Your IT said, we had to do this. We have no one who knew it but him. And, and so having been alerted to that, he was brought back in under a contract, which was permissible because he had been gone longer than a year. State law would allow him to come back in that way. And so basically, having identified the problem, having already been the 11th hour, the immediate solution was to put the person on it who knew it, and then address in the future how we're going to get this into a more normal routine.
Okay. I just think we probably need to, when you go out and look at it, is to see who else really provides this type of service and see whether we can't link up with them to be the interface, not unless it's a necessary requirement that they be situated in the city of Harrisburg as an alternative. And if you can't subcontract it, you might as well just subcontract it out for whatever the actual need is to someone who actually has the expertise. If this gentleman can't continue to stay beyond, I guess, the next year or two or however long this contract. Matter of fact, how long is this going to be for?
This will only go.
Just this year?
Earlier of that, the project is completed or at the latest to June.
Of next year?
No, this year.
Of this year?
Yeah, the project should be June 15th of this year.
But if there's a requirement to have the data, based on what you said, completed by February of every year, then why would we not look at?
I think we're looking at all of the
Okay,
options.
you're gonna look at the options,
Right,
but I'm
and
just saying
whether
you're-
there's training of current people is possible. I think all the options get looked at. So you had two different issues. You had a gap that had to be filled
Had to be
immediately.
filled to correct
and then
what
you had
hadn't
to
been
evaluate
provided.
whether you could keep it in or send it out. And I
Okay.
think that process will keep going on.
Okay.
There's a lot of evaluation going on with IT and how to improve services down there, how to get, whether it's providing the best services for the city or not, and how to improve those. I mean, that's sort of a constant. We have, as everyone knows, a dinosaur system. So.
Yeah, they've been out of existence for more than 20 years, but we won't go down that road. But in any case, thank you.
I just thought of a follow-up question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You mentioned, so the fact that the information didn't get transferred to the other committee, was that due to a system malfunction or just not having a person there?
My understanding is that the system malfunctioned.
Okay. So it should be an automatic process that would occur automatically should the system not have malfunction?
There might be some amount of user input or some type of function that one of the IT people might have to perform to get the data to transfer.
Bless you.
But my understanding is the collation of it and the assembly of the actual file should be automated.
Okay.
And is the outcome of this contract a recommendation to how to proceed going forward? Is that part of what is going to, an expectation of these services being provided? Or?
I don't think we're there yet.
Okay.
I think we're solving the current reporting
solving
problem.
initial and then.
And still evaluating, the city's still evaluating what to do for the next year.
Okay.
Have we been fined for 2014 and 2015?
There's no fine that I'm aware of, no, it's just we have been in communication.
Right, and that was the reason to expedite this contract, because we wanted to be able to communicate to the state police that we have a contract in place, we have somebody that is taking care of this issue, so that to basically avert getting, having a fine placed upon the city.
Well, the reason I asked that, because they said that they can charge fines for each agency. So now we're inputting information for 6 other boroughs or townships, right?
Right, but we were already being paid to do that.
Okay,
That's the issue. I mean, they were paying for the service,
okay,
so.
okay. Any other questions, council members? Okay, thank you.
Understand it.
Moving on to Resolution 19,
We're 17.
17.
Yes, excuse me, Resolution 17 is in connection with a park permit for Harrisburg Capital Soccer Inc., and they do business as, more commonly, Harrisburg City Islanders, which is the soccer team that has been playing at the Skyline Sports Complex on City Island. In prior years, the team was given a park permit on a per-game basis, so each game in their schedule, Department of Parks and Recreation would issue a permit. This year, the team and the city agreed that it would be more advantageous to just do one single permit that would cover their entire soccer season instead of continuing to engage in kind of the ad hoc process that we were. So what you have before you with this resolution is the park permit for the City Islanders. Their preseason actually started on March 8th of this year. So there was a need to get their permit in place before that date. So the permit was signed on March 6th, was the last signature. That was the mayor. And the permit is for, it only runs through December 31st of this year. And then next year, the city could renegotiate a new permit. So it's only through December 31st of this year. The fee that they would pay for the permit fee should be on page 6 of the permit. And that fee, the annual fee, is $22,000 that they would pay for this year. And then on top of that, they would also pay 10% of gross revenue generated from alcohol sales that they've generated during the season.
How much, 50%? You
Excuse
said
10%.
10%?
10%.
Okay,
alcohol.
10%, okay.
50, pretty great.
I know, I thought he said 50. Okay.
There was also, as part of the negotiation, there was, the city was able to shift some of the maintenance responsibilities the Islanders agreed to take on. So there was some shifting there.
Okay.
Those really are the main terms of the permit.
Questions, Mr. Baltimore? Okay, Ms. Daniels.
The $22,000 they're paying this year, how does that compare to what they paid under the previous system?
The previous system was under the per game permits that they had last year. This is a $1,000 increase over what they paid last year. Last year it equated to about $21,000. So it's about $1,000 increase. Last year there was no contribution for alcohol sales, so there would be 10% coming to the city this year in alcohol sales. The other thing I should point out too is if the team should sell their liquor license, then there is another provision in here that the city would be paid 10% of the monies that were realized from the sale of the liquor license if they were to sell the liquor license during the term of the permit.
Okay. And in terms of the kind of the structure that we're now using, because this is a new structure, is that a more formalized structure, or will that be something that if there's a different team that comes in next year, we negotiate a different kind of contract? I mean, is this a standardized thing, or are we hoping to turn this into standardized practice?
We're trying to approach, we basically approach this as specific to the Islanders. We did try to look at their concerns, their needs. We tried to balance that against the city's needs and the economics. That's how we came up with this particular agreement. So I think the answer would be we take it on a case-by-case basis, because it depends on the size of the team, the amount of fans that they draw, what their economics are.
Okay. That's it for me.
Mr. Koblinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Notice in Section 7.3 under specific items, the city agrees to purchase a set of soccer goals not to exceed $4,500. Did we buy the first set of soccer goals? Do they wear out? How long have they been there?
Yes,
How did this come in?
Thank you for pointing that out. I did want to point that out. That as one of the negotiation terms was the soccer goals. The soccer goals that were there were old and they were in need of, I guess, substantial repair. So the Islanders were asking for replacement goals. So the city did agree to purchase new goals up to $4,500. My understanding is that those goals have been ordered
And do we know what the cost of those?
I don't. I think it came under the 4,500.
Okay. So they opted not to pay a lesser price, 18,000 or whatever, but get that, but then we agreed to pay. I just wondered how that sort of shook out, because why didn't they just pay a lower price? And buy the goals themselves?
Right. A lot of this came down to the maintenance sharing provisions, where we asked them to take care of some things that they weren't taking care of last year. And that was part of the negotiation with the 4,500 for the soccer goals, as we asked them in exchange to take on some additional maintenance responsibilities.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Mr. Alec.
Yeah, the only question I have, I see part of the city responsibility is that we maintain the soccer field and the grounds itself. Now, I understand they play as part of a league, and the league has standards for the field itself. So are we able and capable to maintain the grounds at the level to maintain the consistency with the league that they're playing in?
We met with our person from Public Works that actually maintains the field over there. There's been no issues, to my knowledge, in the past. We're confident that we can maintain the field to the standard that the league requires.
Okay.
We don't foresee an issue with that.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson.
No questions. Everybody else has asked them. No need to belabor the point.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Motion to go back into session?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Back in the session now. Moving on to Resolution 13 first. Please read that into record again to be voted on.
Resolution 13 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Reed. It's a resolution ratifying a professional services agreement with Larry L. Eikenberry to provide technical assistance necessary to submit crime statistics to Pennsylvania State Police IT Department for required 2014 reporting.
Here are no questions or additional comments. Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 13 passes.
Thank you. Please read Resolution 17.
Resolution 17, 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Baltimore. It's a resolution ratifying a park permit with Harrisburg Capital Soccer Incorporated doing business as Harrisburg City Islanders team for the holding of games and other related activities for its 2015 season in the Skyline Sports Complex on City Island.
Here are no additional comments or questions. Please call the vote.
Mr. Allett?
Yes.
Mr. Baltimore?
Yes.
Ms. Daniels?
Yes.
Mr. Kaplinski?
Yes.
Ms. Reed? Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 17 passes.
Thank you. Moving on to Resolution 18, 2015.
Resolution 18 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Daniels. It's a resolution approving the zoning code amendment request by William C. Collis, Esquire, to allow for structures up to 99 feet in height to be permitted by right within the proposed riverfront RF zone south of Interstate 83.
We placed in Building and Housing. Please read Resolution 19 of 2015.
Resolution 19 of 2015 was moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Baltimore. It's a resolution approving the sale of city surplus vehicles from the Bureau of Vehicle Management.
We placed in Administration Committee. Moving on to Resolution 20 of 2015.
Resolution 20 of 2015 was moved by Mr. Kaplinski, seconded by Ms. Williams. It's a resolution urging Congress and the United States Department of Transportation to review and update specifications for tank car design and regulations to lessen the number of oil train derailments and for rail companies to rapidly upgrade and replace crude oil tank cars, and urging greater communication between the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency and local emergency management officials to better prepare for oil train accidents.
That will be a joint committee of Community Economic Development and Public Safety. Moving on to old business. So any old business, council members? Moving on to new business. Is there any new business? Mr. Kaplinski.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to discuss our potential meeting for Resolution 20 of 2015. Obviously, we've been talking yesterday and today, and many discussions in the past few weeks about these oil trains coming through with Bakken crude oil, extremely volatile oil from North Dakota. Of all of the 89 kinds of oil there are in the world, this is the most volatile. and 25 trains carrying this oil come through our city every week, and potentially a very serious danger to the people of our community and our region, of course. Thought it was important to push forth a resolution urging for new federal regulations and pushing those along because there's some feet dragging in Washington, and see what we can do to help that process along, but also make sure that the people in our community are safer by making sure that local officials are speaking with PEMA, are speaking with the rail companies and the PUC as well. So we're going to have a joint committee hearing of public safety and community and economic development. Want to make sure we have a date in which all of the officials from these groups are able to come, but I would estimate that it would be in the next 2 weeks, hopefully before next public session of this body, so we can get Resolution 20 passed as soon as possible and urge those changes on the federal, state, and local level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaplinsky. Any other new business?
Go ahead, Sherman.
Ms. Daniels.
Yeah, I just have an
Then Ms.
announcement. We're having the legislative advocacy training again this year. It's free. It's an event hosted by Harrisburg Area Now, Pennsylvania Immigration and Citizenship Coalition, the Delta Sigma Thetas, and the Alpha Kappa Alphas. It's from 9:30 to 11:30, March 28th at the Hamilton Health Center. It is a free event, and the trainers this year are Morgan Plant and Paula Knudsenberg as the lobbyist, and the panelists will be Representative Patty Kim, School Director Daniel Robinson, and Senator Pat Vance. So if folks would like to attend, it's a great opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
This is really probably should have been under old business, but I'm going to bring it up now. I have sat here now for the last couple meetings, and so thank you, Mr. Kaplinsky, for bringing Resolution 20 forward. But we need to understand that the trains have been running through this community for the last 150 years. And it's important that we do get this right in terms of safety and security within this community. But what I want to talk about more importantly has to do with even this council taking on the issue of making sure that we're doing what's right in this community and moving forward on other pieces of legislation in terms of growing our community, making sure that we get it right, and making sure that we start looking at these neighborhoods a little bit closer. And where I'm going to is the heart of what we have sitting is the LRTA bill. Now, we sit up here and we want to pass legislation that deals with federal regulations. Federal regulations that control everything that runs from the eastern seaboard clean to the west, out to the west. We need to make sure that when we're bringing this kind of stuff forward, that we're also looking at what are we doing when we don't bring the legislation that's going to improve our neighborhoods. And people can sit here and put their heads in the sand, but what we need to realize when people come to the mics and they start talking about people bringing money into this community, the 7 of us sitting up here are not millionaires. We have got to allow businessmen to come into this community if we are going to effectuate change. Some people will call it regentrification. I call it revitalization. Some will say that the big money spenders are here to take over. If we do not invite developers in here, ladies and gentlemen, our community will never grow. It will remain stagnant, and we will not create the job opportunities that we all sit here and profess that we want to have in this community. I don't have a dog in this fight because guess what? I'm not running for re-election. But I am going to put it out there because guess what? We need to move forward on getting girders in the ground, which means those are great big straight poles where we've got buildings going up in the side, and we need cranes operating. Now, we all talk about how we want to change this community, and we profess that we're working on your behalf. But it cannot be political. It has got to be business. And we have got to stop going at each other and professing that we're here working on your behalf, when in fact, it's undermining a process that we need to be moving forward on. And so I'm going to urge you, Councilman Kaplinsky, to please bring that bill out. It is time to move forward. We can no longer sit on a bill that we are not acting on, and we are not willing to want to have our community grow. We need to move on it, and I would ask you to revisit it. Whatever the differences are, we need to work through them, and we need to get that bill passed So we're not sitting here next year waiting for cranes to come into this community. And we can't use the excuse that we're waiting for election to be over. It needs to be done now. And so while it should have been handled under old business, I brought it up under new because I think it's long overdue. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other old business or new business? Okay. Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.